Welcome to the second episode of Timmy and Alby's podcast. We have a special guest joining us today because I guess we peaked after one episode and we already need somebody to spice things up. Our friend Jonathan Mock is here to weigh in as we talk about our favorite TV shows of all time. Say hi, Mock.
Hey, how's it going? I guess I'm here to spice things up.
Alby, you out there? All right, good. Quick background. Mock is actually the reason why Alby and I became friends, so that's why we invited him today as our special guest.
Yeah, way back when.
He also watches more TV than just about anybody we know right now. And then part of our collective friendship together began around TV. So way back when, in the summer of 2007, Mock came to visit me in LA. Alby drove up from Irvine and we hung out for a few days. We went to Vegas. We played basketball. We told Alby to join Facebook. There a lot of epic things happened. We can talk about that later. But this is when I introduced both of these guys to How I Met Your Mother, which I think at that time had just completed its second season. So we sat around and watched almost all those first two seasons in a few days. It was really great. Around that time, I was watching a lot of TV shows, and this was a really fun one to introduce to those two guys. As some of you probably know, we're in a so-called golden age of television right now. It's been going on probably for the last 10 plus years. So today we're going to go around taking turns talking about our top 3 TV comedies and then TV dramas of all time. There's no formal rating process. A lot of it's going to be subjective. But for me, I take into account things like the peak popularity of the show, the longevity of the show, like how long it lasted on air, as well as things like the social media influence, the recaps, and the theories you read online. Those always make shows more fun to watch. And then finally, the subjective part, how often I personally rewatch the shows, what kind of inside jokes come from them, and just the time period of my life as I relate to the shows. That's all taken into effect too. You guys have anything to add before we start?
I had completely forgotten that we watched How I Met Your Mother, or binge watched that weekend.
You're welcome.
That makes that weekend even more legendary now.
Yeah, we watched How I Met Your Mother. We saw Neo free at the Venice Beach, and then we also watched the 2005 Rose Bowl when Vince Young did his thing.
Yep, and we made Frito.
That was a great trip.
We made Frito burritos and Mock got free Dippin' Dots. So it was a big trip. All right, so we're gonna go ahead.
No, it started your friendship.
Yeah,
that's a good call.
All right, so we're gonna get started with our comedies. I'll go ahead and rank my top 3. I'll go backwards, but I want to start with an honorable mention that we're not going to talk about. So, The Office is a show that I rewatched so much right around that time, especially seasons 2 through 5 or so.
Great show.
I feel really bad not including it on here. It's just it kind of tailed off the last few years. It just wasn't quite as good once Michael Scott left. And then my other honorable mention is Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I love. Really clever, well-written, a little bit too R-rated for me, I guess. And really it's just not better than Seinfeld, which is my number 3. Seinfeld has just so many inside jokes. Every story was woven together really well with multiple storylines together. Reruns throughout high school, college. Even now I rewatch it on Hulu every once in a while. That's my number 3. Number 2 for me is Arrested Development. I know I said longevity is important, but this kind of breaks the rule because Arrested Development, I think, shaped the way I view humor and around college and beyond. I just rewatched those first 2 or 3 seasons, I don't know, dozens of times is probably the only way to say it. I'm not even going to talk about...
Overrated.
I'm not going to talk about the Netflix season. No, man. Seasons 1 through 3 were incredible. So many inside jokes that I shared with my friends, and personally, I mean, that was something that shaped me around college and a little bit beyond. The only show that I've watched more than that is Friends. So that's my number 1. I've seen every episode, I don't know, 15, 20 times. Reruns are on TV all the time, Netflix. I have them all downloaded on my computer. I used to just turn them on in the background while I was working and just watch them like at night. So that's just a show that is obviously number 1 for me. Alby, how about you go next?
Okay. For me, number 3, and I know it's not a good show. I know it's just ridiculous in every way, but my number 3 show is Entourage.
That is embarrassing.
The reason why I have Entourage is just like the perfect storm of what was going on in my life at the time. It was a show that I picked up late, and so I was able to binge watch Entourage all the way through in like 2 weeks or something like that. And it's also the main reason why I love Marky Mark so much, because apparently it's either based on his story, his life, or maybe stories of his life, and so
Yep.
it just made the appeals that much greater for me, and so that's why my number 3 show is Entourage. Number 2, I have to give it up to Big Willie Style. He when I was growing up, he was probably my favorite actor of all time, and
Still is.
he was the star of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and so that's my number 2 show. I've probably seen Fresh Prince and Friends the most, which is my number 1, and there's no comment there. But for Fresh Prince, I've seen it just as much as I've seen Friends, and so
Wow.
I couldn't rank anything above Friends. It's my number 1 show just because when you watch it now, and I bet in 20 years when we watch it again, it just keeps it. It's not very dated. It's always funny.
Yeah.
And the characters are awesome. And so, to recap, 3 Entourage, 2 Fresh Prince, 1 Friends. What about you, Mark?
Alby, I have a question first. Where do you rewatch Fresh Prince? That's the biggest problem I have with that show, is that there's nowhere I can rewatch the episodes easily. Otherwise, I think it would be in my top 3 too.
Yeah, so I haven't really rewatched it recently in the last like 2 to 3 years. But before that, it was on those local TV channels all the time.
Yeah, Nick at Night. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might still be on Nick at Night, but late. Like,
It is. I was just on vacation and I watched many episodes because it was just on. But yeah, it's not easy to see. I don't pay for cable at home, so I don't really get to watch it anywhere else. All right, Mock, let's hear your top 3.
Okay. Well, I didn't know we were supposed to look at that many factors that you had mentioned to start the show. But just in terms of rewatchability, I'll echo your sentiment for The Office as an honorable mention. I was in Denver over Thanksgiving break, and we just happened to watch a ton of reruns of the first 5 seasons of The Office, and they are tremendous. I think that's honestly one of the most underrated shows of all time. And another honorable mention, I'll just mention real quick since you kind of brought it up earlier, How I Met Your Mother. I don't know if it's because of that weekend, subconsciously, but I wrote down here on my paper the first 2 seasons of How I Met Your Mother,
Nice.
which is actually what we watched that week. First couple seasons, it was new. Barney Stinson was amazing, but after a while, they just stopped developing those characters, and Barney couldn't carry the show by himself.
Yep.
So it really fell off. Really, the last 8 years of that show, or whatever it was. My number 3 is Seinfeld. So it matches Timmy's. I rewatched them all in order maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So it wasn't live, but it was still just as good. I feel like, I don't want to play the race card or anything, but if we're talking about just general American white culture, if you want to be able to relate to people at your workplace or anything like that, chances are they're going to love Seinfeld. So that's one of the main reasons to watch it if you don't already love it. Second for me is Scrubs.
Wow.
Scrubs.
It's so high up there for me. I can't rewatch it. It's not anywhere right now that I can find. But JD and Turk, their relationship on that show was just tremendous. And just the characters. And I love that show so much that I followed some of the characters to I don't know if you guys remember Courtney Cox's newer show, Cougar Town.
Yeah.
So they had a bunch of, carryovers from that show, like Dr. Cox and his wife and everything. And so I watched that show solely because of that.
Hey, Mock, I think it's time for you to start paying for Netflix because Scrubs is all on there.
It is all on there?
Yeah.
Man, that might be the number 1 reason to start Netflix now for me.
Wow. Yeah. Welcome to 2012.
When I tell you I've never seen Scrubs.
Oh.
What? Not even one episode?
No, one of our friends, Hal, tried to get me to watch it while in med school. I couldn't do it. Because I had already seen How I Met Your Mother, so every time I saw her, I saw Stella. I was like,
Ooh.
this is weird.
But she was such a minor character in How I Met Your Mother.
She was in there for like 10 episodes or less.
10 of the greatest episodes.
All right. Okay, what's your number one, Mock?
My number one is Friends. So Friends swept the
easy.
board for all of us, it sounds like. It is, man, it's one of the few shows that, for me, that progressively got better. If you rewatch like the first couple of seasons now, some of them are a little cringeworthy, but it kind of obviously stuck around for 10 whole seasons. And by the end of it, I mean, even to this day, if you ask anyone, any of those characters, like which of those characters do you relate to most? Like all those characters are on first name basis. You mentioned Joey, you mentioned Chandler. Everyone knows who you're talking about. And even growing up, when we were watching it live, everyone connected to a character. And that's really my biggest takeaway from like a show like How I Met Your Mother, which was on the air forever, but you couldn't really connect to any of the characters. You just I guess enjoyed Barney's humor and stuff like that, but everyone else was just kind of there. So that's my list.
Yeah, we could talk about Friends all day. I have one thing on that though, is that I actually really enjoy the early seasons of Friends way more than the later seasons. Actually, I enjoy seasons like 2.5 through probably 6 or 7 the best. I think the very beginning and then the last few seasons kind of tail off a little bit. Yeah, but let's go ahead and move on to dramas. We're going to go through our top 3 dramas there. I have a couple honorable mentions as well that we're not going to talk about. First of all, I've never seen Sopranos or West Wing. I know a lot of people say those are at the top of the list. I also never got into Game of Thrones, embarrassingly. And then finally, Mad Men is like way up there on my list. It's just, I don't think I never rewatched the show. Great storylines, dialogue, acting, everything. I just don't think it's a show that I would rewatch.
You made me buy 3 Blu-rays of Mad Men, and I've never opened them.
I sold them. I sold them on Craigslist like a few weeks later. Sorry, man.
Do you want my copies?
I watched one episode of Mad Men, and it couldn't hook me, so I stopped after that.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that doesn't hook you. You have to like watch it and like get into it, and then it is really good. Alby, I might pick those up for me sometime. All right, top dramas for me. Number 3 is probably controversial. Most people don't think it's a top drama, but 24. Jack Bauer
Jack Bauer?
Yeah, Jack Bauer is incredible.
Never seen it.
You've never seen any episodes?
No, man.
Wow.
You did not come prepared for this.
Wow. Well, I mean, that is something we knew. Like, Alby doesn't really watch as many shows as me and Mock, but that's fine. 24 came out in 2001, right after 9/11. That's the amazing thing about it. I think the pilot was like a little before 9/11, and then the show started right after the big terrorist attack, and it was just a groundbreaking show, format of the show with at real time, and then that formula just worked for many seasons in a row, even though there's always like, a mole in the CTU and there's always like things going on that happen every year. It still worked a lot. I also rewatched that show a lot. It's strangely enough, I like rewatched the entire show.
Rewatch that. I don't know about the rewatchability for that show.
So right after college, I rewatched it with a group of friends, like whole seasons at a time for weekends. And it was definitely like, it's not like amazing TV. It was just great times for me. So sentimentally, that's why it's in my top 3.
Wait, I have a question. Why is it crazy that it was around 9/11?
So 24 is about a counter-terrorist unit, which is fictional. But that right around then was when like the show aired right after the actual events of 9/11 happened.
So viewers weren't like turned off by that? Like they didn't think it was too soon?
No, I thought they were really interested in it. I was really interested in it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You use the word groundbreaking, which I think is like the perfect word for it.
Which one?
I do remember visiting you guys in Austin. So Timmy and Mock both went to UT, and so I would visit them all the time in Austin. And we would be at Greg's playing basketball, and then you would see like this mass exodus of people leaving at a certain time. And then I'll be like, hey, so why are you guys leaving? Where are you guys all going? And they would all say 24. And
Nice.
I was like just appalled.
Those were the glory days before DVR and streaming.
Yeah,
You had to, you had to catch it live, or
we would
else you were
have
just screwed.
we would have parties to watch them together, and so I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, it just like for the culture of it, it was awesome. What were you gonna say, Mock, about the word that I used?
You said groundbreaking, which I think is just the perfect word for it.
Thank you, thank you. All right, number 2 on my list is
action for literally like 24 hours, and
yeah, it's incredible. Number 2 on my list probably could have easily been number 1, but Breaking Bad. I know you guys are going to talk about it too. Outstanding rewatch. I think that's something that most people don't know. I have watched it, I think, 3 or 4 times all the way through. There's a lot of interesting details that you can find going through it again. But my number 1 show is Friday Night Lights. I've watched that show more than Breaking Bad all the way through as well. Introduced a lot of people to it. I am definitely a sap, and it combines 2 of my favorite things, sports and high school drama.
The high school drama in Friday Night Lights is unbeatable.
So many touching moments. I just love that it's about a lot more than football, about a lot more than the kids. Like, people can graduate or, not graduate if it's Landry and he stays for like 4 years. But
yeah, he was like a 24-year-old junior in high school.
Yeah, I thought he was like a junior when the show started, but apparently he was like a freshman. Anyway, Friday Night Lights was just so great because it was always about the family. It was about Coach Taylor and his wife, and I don't know, it's just so sentimental. I loved it. Alby, go.
Okay. So for top dramas for me, number 3, and this is it's probably gonna catch everyone off guard, but it's The Wonder Years. And the backstory behind The Wonder Years is because growing up in Plano, Texas, I actually grew up with my cousins, and they were all older than me. And so I would try to be cool or try to fit in, and they were all watching The Wonder Years and like Perfect Stranger and stuff like that. And so I just fell in love with the show. And Kevin was the same age I was when I was watching it. And so he started having feelings for a girl, and that's when I started having, weird feelings for girls and things like that too. And so it was just a perfect combination of my life at the time. And then what's crazy is maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I downloaded the entire series and I started watching it again, and it was awesome. Like, I couldn't stop. And
really?
I have,
really
yeah.
watchable?
Yeah, I think it is, but I think most of it is maybe because it's playing on my memories. I don't know if it's something where, like, if you watch it for the first time today, you would enjoy it or not. But for me, it was awesome.
Alby, I thought
give me that series next time.
I thought The Wonder Years was a comedy, or is it like a dramedy? Is it like a both?
It's a comedy in like a quirky way, but it's more of a drama because it's about Kevin's life and all the things you deal with as a teenager during that time. So you have like the Vietnam War playing on the TV, and the dads and stuff are upset about that. But then at the same time, you have like nerdy friends and sports and this jock as a brother, and I don't know. It's just a combination of things that made it a great show for me. Yeah, and then for number 2, I have The Wire, and
Nice.
the best thing I can have synopsis I can say about The Wire is so I have this cop friend here in Dallas, and he would tell me The Wire is probably the most realistic show you would have like on the streets. He's saying like it's basically just putting cameras on every corner of Baltimore, and that's what you have. And so the realism and the character development in The Wire is why I have it so high for me. And then my favorite drama, actually probably favorite show of all time, is Breaking Bad.
Nice.
And the number 1 reason for that is Bryan Cranston and his amazing performance. I still think it's like the best acting performance I've seen, including movies and TV to date. And so that's why I have that show as number 1.
All right, Mock, your turn.
Yeah, me and Albert match on Breaking Bad and The Wire. So I'll kind of go in reverse order that we've been going. So number 1 for me is Breaking Bad as well. I'll just say, just to add on top of what's already been said, I'd say out of all the shows I've ever watched, The Breaking Bad had the best finales every single season.
Yep.
So best season finales and best overall series finale. Always left you wanting more, and like you couldn't wait till the next season started. For The Wire, man, it just didn't. It wasn't very highly acclaimed when it was on live, but watching it after the fact, and it's very highly rated now. There's no weak season there, so that's one of the biggest drawbacks I hear about Friday Night Lights. Because of the writer's strike and the timing of that, apparently all of season 3 was pretty much ignored or something.
Season 2.
But season 2 or season 3, yeah.
Season 2.
Well, yeah. I have to admit, I have not seen Friday Night Lights yet, so I need.
Podcast over.
Sorry.
Wait, how many times have you seen it, Timmy?
Probably like 7 or 8 all the way through.
Okay.
It's a long show too.
After what's been said in the last 10 minutes, I'm actually gonna have to put Wonder Years above Friday Night Lights on my list. Right
what?
Now. So.
No.
I'm sorry. It's just.
Wow, we need a new guest. We need a new guest.
This might be my one and only time on this podcast. But yeah, so that's The Wire right there. Just no weak seasons, no weaknesses in that. And it's only 6 seasons long, which was the perfect amount of time for that show.
5 seasons.
So my third. Oh, five or 6. Okay.
Come on,
so
man.
My last one is. It's been a while. My last show, my number 3 show is Lost. So I know.
Wow.
I know the show left a sour taste in everyone's mouth because of the finale of it. A lot of people saw it as a cop out, but honestly, like, you can't just look at that. The first season of that show was just incredible. Like it was kind of had the same hype that we talked about for 24 a few minutes ago. Everyone would stop whatever they're doing to go watch that show live. I think first season was like 16 million people per episode, which is amazing. And
stats.
I think it was.
Mock did his homework for this podcast.
Only for his portion.
And it didn't even tail off that much though. It went from 60 million, and even the final season. So people who are kind of tuning in at the very beginning, that makes sense. But to go all the way through to the end, the final season still had like 11 or 12 million per episode. And I just think in terms of character development, you loved or hated the characters. And it was the first show, it was just ahead of its time. It was the first show that kind of went along with social media. So everyone was just kind of going crazy all together. And it brought mystery. It brought a lot of like intrigue and suspense to the show from week to week. So I think it was the most talked about show definitely during that time.
Yeah, I'm not going to piggyback off that. I would say that my favorite episode of a TV show did come from Lost, and that was when
Desmond.
I think it was
Desmond and Penny.
4, I believe. Yeah,
Desmond.
when Desmond finally was able to reach Penny on Christmas Day.
Yeah,
that was.
The only time I've cried that hard was when the Mavs won the 2011 championship, and Lost. That's a great show. Good call.
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna argue. Alby and I used to talk about Lost as it was coming out, like every episode, and we would like watch, or we would read all the recaps, and we had like a Google Doc with all these theories and questions. So there's no argument there. I think we could have like a separate podcast about Lost, or just about the characters on all these shows. So that might be for a future listing.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right, so we only have a few minutes left. We each wanted to talk briefly about a random show or a couple shows that we like. For me, Heroes and Prison Break, season 1 only. Those impacted me a lot because they were right around the end of college when I was moving to LA. Watched a lot of great TV. That was the beginning, I think, of some of the great TV. Like we mentioned, Lost, Friday Night Lights, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, The Wire. Those were all around that same time frame when it started. And those two series, just those first seasons of them, were right up there with a lot of those shows at the time. I really enjoyed them, and then they were terrible afterwards. Alby, what about you?
Good call.
For me, my show that I can't stop watching once I start is actually Naked and Afraid. and I have
Yeah.
I have to
Wow.
shout out to the Mox. Him and his wife Ophelia got me into that show, and then my neighbor here in Garland, Texas, Cody and his wife Tiffany, they love the show as well, and so every time I sit, I rarely watch TV live nowadays. So when I do watch, and that's on, like I go straight to it. I don't watch any sports. I don't watch any other show. It's Naked and Afraid.
So
And
I don't even know what this is.
Mock, do you want to tell them?
It's like Survivor, except
Okay.
yeah, it's just Survivor with two people, and you're naked, and that's it. You try to survive for like 21 days in the wilderness. They drop you somewhere.
Okay, how do I watch it?
I mean, Naked and Afraid XL is more than two people, right?
Yeah, that's
Where,
but normal Naked and Afraid, it's one guy, one girl.
Where-
They meet each other naked in the middle of the woods or jungle or something.
where can I watch it?
I think you can just find it on Discovery Channel.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
Discovery.
my-
I think.
I don't
Yeah,
pay
my
for that.
my favorite thing about that show is they always interview the two people like before, and the guy is always like this, badass machismo dude who always thinks that he's gonna be able to last the 21 days, but it more often times than not it ends up being the girl who is like the stronger one, unless
carrying
she's just complaining about bugs or whatnot. But it's usually the female that figures out how to catch a fish or how to do this and that. And so I just love that aspect of it. And then I do, because I'm very conscious about my weight. I'm sure you guys know. And I love how at the end of the show, they tell me like how much weight they've lost in those 21 days.
It's visible. You should do it. Get on that show.
I would never do that show because you don't have a prize. It's all for pride. And I've never understood that. You don't get money, you don't get endorsements, nothing. It's just for pride. And no way, Jose.
All right, Mock, what's your random show or shows?
For me, I don't know if game shows count,
Sure.
but if they do, then for me it's Wheel of Fortune. It's
Nice.
it's right as of right now, it's the only show I DVR, and so I watch it whenever I can. And my friend Peter, who doesn't live in the States, so he can't watch it. So every time I watch it, I'll take a picture of the final puzzle and I'll send it over to him with a message of how much the person had won going into the final puzzle. He thinks he has an algorithm, so depending on how much prize money they had already won before the final round, he can guess which letters based on the money amount. But yeah, so that's kind of on both of our wish lists at some point in our life, on our bucket list to get on that show. Maybe together. We've talked about like pretending to be a gay couple to maybe increase our odds. But if game shows don't count, then I'm gonna have to go with Timeless. It's a new show, first season right now. It is not a good show, but I want it so badly to be a good show. So it's about time travel. There's a time travel machine, and I don't know. I just have this place in my heart for time travel, all things time travel.
That's why you love Lost.
Lost.
It is. And I love the flash forwards and the flashbacks from Lost. And Timeless, it's the only show I watch with my wife right now, and she is an aficionado of bad TV shows. So this is the only one that I will watch with her.
Nice.
We both agree that it's a bad show, and if you take it kind of at face value with that caveat, then you can definitely watch it. But I would not recommend it to everyone. It's just, if you really like time travel, then go for it.
All right. 1 minute left. Alby, you got some interesting facts for us.
All right. Here's some interesting facts. Number one, so you guys, we all love Friends. I mean, it swept the board for our favorite, comedy show for all of us, all three of us. Did you guys know that John Cryer from 2.5 Men was originally offered the role of Chandler Bing?
Oh, that would have been horrible.
Yeah, he turned it down, and that's why you had Matthew Perry.
What was
It's
he
crazy.
doing? Was Cryer like a big actor at the time at all? Like, because 2.5 Men is so much later.
Yeah, I think they didn't go for like the big name actors,
Yeah.
And I think he just I don't know why he passed up on it, but it could have been a game changer for him.
I wonder what he
I
did
don't
for the
know if
next
it.
9 years.
I don't know if that show was actually that much later because that show was on forever, and it was like my dad's favorite show of all time.
Alby, you said
Randy.
Two and a Half Men, 2003.
Yeah, so Two and a
Friends
Half
is
Men
94.
started in 03 and ended in 2015.
And Friends is
Yeah.
94. So he had 9 years where he was just chilling, trying to make it big.
Was he doing
Chilling.
Inspector Gadget? Maybe he's doing movies or something.
Inspector Gadget? No, that's Matthew Broderick.
That's a different guy.
All right.
That was-
Next thing. Go ahead,
All
Alby.
right, okay. All right. The next thing is, so out of the shows we've mentioned, like Seinfeld, Friday Night Lights, Scrubs, Friends, Lost, and so forth, what do you guys think is the highest rated show on IMDb?
I think it's Mad Men.
Mock, what about you?
Or is it The Wire?
I'm gonna say Lost.
No, it's not Lost.
Okay, you guys are both wrong. So Breaking Bad
Oh,
at a
obvious.
9.5.
Gosh, so
The
easy.
Wire
It was
at a
like too easy.
9.4.
Oh, so I had
And
The
then
Wire.
Friends and Arrested Development both tied with 9.0s.
Mad Men is not up there? Interesting. Thought it was really critically acclaimed.
I don't think Mad Men's good, man. It's pretty boring.
It's excellent. You guys should watch it. But first, watch Friday Night Lights and not The Wonder Years. All right, that's going to do it. Thank you, guys.
Mad Men 8.6, by the way. 8.6.
Solid.
Ouch.
All right, later.
Bye.
All right, later, guys.